Hello and welcome to Project Lifecycle session. In this session, we are going to understand what is adaptive lifecycle. But before that, let us touch upon what all other life cycles we have and why we think that adaptive lifecycle is better than those all approaches. Yeah, so let us get started. First, we have predictive life cycle, which is also known as waterfall life cycle. So, in this life cycle, the project scope, time, cost are determined early in the project. That means you should have your scope clear, you should be able to determine or estimate your cost and schedule upfront. So this is known as predictive life cycle. Iterative life cycle is in this. Let us understand this by going through the diagrams. So this is about predictive life cycle, which is waterfall model or traditional approach. Yeah, so in this example you can see that each of the project phases, they are in a linear sequential manner. That means initially you will be collecting all the requirements from your customer, you will be creating a requirements document, and once the discussions gets finalized, you will be taking sign off from the customer. That means you are freezing the requirements, and then you will start working on those requirements. You will come up with analysis and design for those requirements, for complete set of requirements. And after design phase, you are going to work on development or construction. So in this phase also you are going to construct complete set of requirements, and after development you are going to put your product in testing phase, and when that complete product is tested, you will implement it in the production environment. So that means you are carrying out all the project phases in a linear sequential manner for complete set of requirements. This is known as waterfall model or predictive life cycle. The next life cycle is iterative life cycle. In this life cycle, the scope is fixed, but the team adjusts their schedule and cost depending on how much effort it requires for refining the product. So what they do is, in the initial phase, they will be creating a small prototype of the product, and then they will try to come up with a small skeleton of the product, and they will keep on refining the product by going through multiple iterations. So they carry out these project phases in multiple iterations, and finally they will be shipping the complete product. But there is a risk in this kind of project life cycle, because it may cost too much for the project team, or it may also delay the project. And the next life cycle is incremental life cycle. In this project life cycle, the project team is going to consume a small set of requirements, and they are going to work on those requirements, and they will be releasing that increment. Increment is known as a small part of the product, and they will be carrying out the next iteration, and in the next iteration they will be consuming another set of requirements, and they will be working on those requirements, and they will be releasing another increment, and so on. This way they will be carrying out multiple iterations, and at the end of each iteration they are going to release an increment. And in this kind of life cycle, they are not going to go back and touch upon the previously released increments. So there are multiple problems which project teams were facing with these life cycles. Like in waterfall life cycle, if you complete development phase and midway if the customer comes and asks for changes, then you will not be able to incorporate those changes. And in iterative life cycle, you are carrying the risk of cost and schedule, because only your scope is fixed and you don't know how much time you are going to take to refine the product. In incremental life cycle, although you are releasing an increment every iteration, but you are not getting time or you're not able to spend effort to refine the earlier increments that you have released or make changes to the earlier increments, because that is going to cost extra. That is the reason we have come up with a fourth life cycle that is known as adaptive life cycle or agile life cycle. In agile life cycle, the development is carried out in a dynamic manner. You are going to perform, or you are going to develop that product in multiple iterations, and you will be repeating your iterations until you deliver or until you come up with a correct product. And you are going to do frequent small deliveries, and in each of the release that you do, customer has to see value in it. Okay, so here adaptive life cycle is a combination of iterative and incremental life cycle. So this is the example of iterative life cycle, and here is the example of incremental life cycle. Adaptive life cycle is a combination of iterative and incremental life cycles. If these all concepts are confusing you too much, you just understand that in the adaptive life cycle or in agile approach, we are carrying out development in a dynamic manner in such a way that we will be able to accept changes from the customer at any stage of the development, and we will be able to accept those changes, and we will adjust our work accordingly, and we will work towards delivering a complete product. So here I have taken the example of Scrum framework to better understand the characteristics of agile methodology. So in Scrum framework, what we actually achieve is we actually use Scrum framework in software development primarily, but later on we have started using Scrum framework in other industries also. So here the motive is to respond to changes effectively and also to accelerate delivery, and we are going to deliver value in each of the iteration that we carry out. So this example you may not understand right now. In my agile scrum blueprint, you will be able to understand this framework better. So I advise you go through agile scrum blueprint course completely to understand scrum framework in a better manner. But here in this video, you just understand that adaptive life cycle is something which is related to agile. Okay, and it is a combination of iterative and incremental life cycle. Agile life cycle or adaptive life cycle is a change driven life cycle, and predictive life cycle is a plan driven life cycle. So in this life cycle, you have to first come up with a comprehensive plan and then you will move ahead. But in adaptive life cycle, you are not going to come up with a comprehensive plan upfront, but you are going to inspect and adapt. You are going to adjust with the changes that come in, and finally you are going to deliver a complete product with complete functionality. So this is all about adaptive life cycle, and there is one more life cycle. I will just take you quickly through that. There is one more life cycle called hybrid life cycle. In this hybrid life cycle is a combination of one or more of the existing life cycles. Like in your project, if you are implementing adaptive as well as predictive life cycle, then that is known as hybrid life cycle. For example, if you have to construct an e-commerce application, in that application, if you have to construct 10 features, and out of those 10 features, if you are very much clear about 2 features, then you can construct those 2 features using predictive lifecycle method, and the rest of the 8 features which you are not sure, and you are not sure what functionality you are going to deliver, for that you may apply adaptive lifecycle or agile approach. So these are the different examples of hybrid life cycles. Yep, so I think it must be pretty much clear to you what is project life cycle, what is waterfall methodology, what is adaptive life cycle, and why adaptive life cycle is so much important. So I think this is pretty much clear to you. And one more thing, before you move on to next video, you please go back and understand which life cycle you are following in your project, and you please write down in the comment box currently which life cycle you are following in your project. Yeah, see you in the next video. Until then, bye.